counting down to 50 on the timer. Yes, yes. There. All right. For this first one, if I start pouring my chemicals in when it comes to the 10-second countdown mark, things are going to work out just fine. I mean, these have a nice amount of extra funnel space, so you can really pour it right in fast. And you can be doing this right along with me now. So we're going to agitate continuously for the first 30 seconds on the timer. And this is what agitating looks like. We're not shaking it really hard. We're not swirling it side to side. We're just inverting the tank, maybe rotating a quarter of a turn and rotating back. Up and down and up and down. Not too fast. Go too fast and you're actually going to ruin it. We're at the 30, so we're going to bang it to knock loose any little air bubbles. And then we're going to set it down in the sink and leave it alone for 30 seconds. Then we'll pick it up and we'll agitate. So I think I'm going to back this up so you can kind of see both the timer and the agitation process. If I can get myself pulled together in time. Yes! So we're coming to the top mark. That's 30 seconds. I'm going to pick it up. And one agitation cycle is really just inverting the tank 2 times, knocking those air bubbles loose, and setting it back down. That's it. So now, hang in there, because we're going to do the same thing for 11 minutes. This is when, after a while, you get really good at this, and you can concentrate on other things. So I kind of like to put Netflix on my phone and put it up here. Just so you keep track. You can see I kind of almost missed. But that's good enough. And let's see, what else can I tell you about while we are developing our film together? This sink has kind of a little peculiarity about it. You saw how the one faucet works, right? It's just regular. We're going to agitate again here. This hose that's attached to this faucet is really nice to use for developing film because, you know, you can pour it right in the tank and stuff. This and the faucet at the end of the sink are both controlled by this, which is like a lot of shower things. It goes hot this way, off this way, cold here. Agitate. So, but off is important because, as you heard, as soon as I turn it on, even though this is shut off, it's not all that much off. There, now it's on. So the shorter version of this is just that when you want to use this faucet, just turn it on here and don't turn it on too far, or you will be pretty soon using hot water. And of course, I mean, you can hear if water's running. Turn it off when you're done. The developer, since we diluted it, I think it's probably pretty obvious to you that we don't want to pour that back into the storage tank, right? If nothing else, following that through to its logical conclusion, that tank would overflow. But really, in addition to that, be progressively more and more diluted, and that would be bad. But the real reason we don't ever reuse developer is that our film is actually exhausting that chemical as we use it. Even if we didn't dilute it, it would not be good for another round. So no matter what, you're going to pour your developer down the drain when you're done with it. And I know a lot of this is new, so up on the wall up here, the little cheater chart, you can see, I've got just sort of the basics reminders up here. D76 developer, dump after use. Stop bath, return to tank. Fixer, return to tank. So there are always reminders built in to help you through to make sure you do things correctly. There's also, as I'm sure you've noticed, the big "don't dump fixer down the drain" stop sign. Lucky you, in this 11 minutes that we have that we're going to be developing this film, you get to hear all about the rest of this stuff and the rules. The deal with fixer is it gradually it's removing the unused silver from your emulsion. And believe it or not, that silver does not need to be in our water supply or anywhere in the planet's water supply. It's really, really bad. I had a student once come and tell me, well, so-and-so was dumping his fixer down the drain because he said, well, she said don't dump it down the drain because it kills fish, but it's only going to kill gutter fish. I hope that horrifies you as much as it did me. No, it's a lot worse than that. Water treatment plants are made to treat certain things, not all things. They're not, you're not supposed to be putting toxic waste into the drain water. And then the other reason, if that's not enough, I have a friend at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and she had students unknowing, she didn't know it, but they were dumping fixer down pretty regularly. And one day the EPA came and did a spot check. And you want to know what it cost the University of Alabama, Birmingham? Because in that spot check it was revealed that they were dumping excess silver. $50,000. And, I know that would be like a ridiculous amount to you and me. Believe me, it's a ridiculous amount to a university as well. So please, just put it back in the tank, That one chemical, that's a really big deal. And that goes for the fixer at in the back darkroom as well. The stop bath is really just, it's a type of acid called glacial acetic acid, and it's pretty closely related to household vinegar as far as the strength that we use. So that it wouldn't be as big a deal to go down the drain. It really wouldn't. In fact, in the back, when you change the chemicals out, you do. You put the developer and the stop bath down at the same time. They neutralize each other because one's a base and one's an acid, and everybody's happy. Maybe the drains run a little cleaner. We're reusing it just because it's still useful after one use of film development. So we're kind of approaching our time here. Got like, 1, 2, 3 more minutes. So we'll talk a little bit about this business of agitating. Manufacturers recommend different things. I think, in fact, Ilford recommends a slightly different agitation pattern than what we're doing. What we're doing is kind of based on what Kodak always did, and therefore what Deb always did. But, generally speaking, you want to do what a manufacturer recommends. And so this just happens to be what the film was designed for. If you did more agitating than you were supposed to, say you just kept going the whole time because you're like, well, more must be better. What would happen is it would actually accelerate the development process too much, and the result would be that your film would wind up being really kind of dark and really contrasty. Like it would make the silver develop at a faster rate than what they were planning for when they told you 11 minutes at 68 degrees. And so in fact, for consistent development, to get your negatives developed in a way that gives you really optimal chances in the darkroom when you're printing, it's going to make the job of printing easiest for you in the darkroom. You want to make sure that you control the time and the temperature. Remember, of course, 68 degrees. The dilution, that's why we were really super careful when we were measuring. And the agitation. So as long as you're following as closely as possible to what was written down, you're going to get good results. And the more consistent and machine-like you can be in that process, the more consistent your negatives are going to be, and the easier time you're going to have of it when you go into the darkroom to make prints from them. Or, you know, maybe you're scanning them. Maybe you're working with large format film and you're scanning it and outputting it. Either way, the negatives are going to be better and more useful to you. So, but the developer, like I said, is really the key one in all of this. Stop bath and fixer, you want to do it right, but, you know, the temperature, as long as it's not a huge shock from 68, it's going to be fine. You know, if this is 70 degrees or if it's 65, it is not the end of the world. It's really not going to change anything at that point. You want to avoid anything higher than 80 with any of these chemicals. So we're getting so close. Look at that. I'm going to start pouring out my previous chemical when this hand makes it to the 15-second mark, because then that's going to give me time to pour in the next one. So get your stop bath ready, peel off that lid, because we don't have any more agitation cycles. And now I wrap my finger around just to make sure that funnel hasn't slipped loose, and I pour it straight into the drain for the developer. Stop bath goes straight in, and you know what I do? I put that stop bath container right down on top of the drain, because hopefully if I start to forget, then, you know, like if I start to forget, meaning I start to pour this like it's going down the drain, I'll go, oh, that container's in my way. Oh, I'm supposed to be pouring it into that container. Stop bath, as you can see, we're just going to continuously agitate it. It doesn't have any of the complexity that the developer does. And in fact, with all of these, you just start agitating and you go. Like, you don't have to look at the chart for what am I supposed to do, what am I supposed to do. For all of them, pour that chemical in and put the lid on and start agitating. Stop bath, 45 seconds is good, so I'm going to peel this lid off already. I'm going to hook a finger around the funnel and pour it into the tank. Woo! And drop it while I'm trying to hold it up for you to see. That I'm going to set back so that I can just put it back in the big storage tank later. And I'm adding my fixer. Push that lid down. Fixer we want to agitate continuously at the start. Look up at the chart here, and you'll see that we are supposed to go for 45 seconds continuously. So a little longer than we did at the start of the developer. And we came in a little late, but that's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. If you were being really particular, you could just push that back a little bit. These lids are not super good at holding the chemicals in over time. They get a little beat up. So if you notice I'm doing this all over the sink, please, for the love of God, do it over the sink. Don't stand out here, you know, getting it all over the lab. These chemicals are clear while they're wet, but when they dry, they probably are going to stain somebody's clothes. And then on top of that, you don't really want concentrated, dried chemical powder, you know, getting all kicked up where you're breathing it and stuff like that. So, you know, keep it in the sink where you can rinse it and get rid of it. During this second minute that we've just entered with the fixer, we're just going to agitate continuously for a block of 15 seconds. So I usually sort of get my wits together after, you know, that first one comes around, and then maybe start right here. Okay, and fixer's kind of a weird little beast. I'm going to bring you in so that you can see up close when I inspect my film. It's now been 2 minutes in the fixer, and what I want to do is check to see if the film is clear. What I mean by clear is not fixed, but whether I can kind of see that it's negatives. And in fact, this is clear film. You can see this is bigger than the film that you guys are shooting with, but that's okay. It's all acting the same. You can see it's a little bit purple, but there's no like milky, cloudy white to it. So that is clear film. If there were opaque areas, then that would mean the film was not clear. And what I would do in that case is continue fixing for 1 more minute. What we want to do to achieve the correct amount, like the right amount of fixing with our film, is to fix the film for twice the time it took to clear. So we're kind of visually checking for this point of clearing because that indicates that you're halfway through the amount of time needed to fix it. If you shortcut this and stop when it's clear and say, well, you know, it looks like negatives, I'm good, your film's not going to last very long. It's going to start to make very strange looking negatives because over time the silver that was left in there, because it wasn't washed away in the fixer, that's going to start turning, and so you're going to lose your image. Try to remember what you've spent on this stuff and just hang in there for that second set of 2 minutes. So if my film had not been clear, this would be the end of the second or the third minute total, right? So I would check it again. Then if it was clear, I would continue fixing for 3 more minutes, right? Because it took 3 minutes to clear, add 3 minutes. Our stuff, in the case of this demo, it cleared after 2 minutes, and so now I'm really almost done fixing because I just put it back in for 1 minute, and now I'm finishing up the second minute. And for all these added on minutes, the agitation is the same. It's just take a 15-second chunk out of each of those minutes and agitate for that. It never hurts to fix it a tiny bit longer. Like if you were looking at it, you know, seeing that purplish color and like, I don't know, is that clear or is that purple supposed to be there? Just go another minute. You're not going to hurt it. What you don't want to do is just say, well, crap, I don't like this whole checking business. You know what, I'm just going to fix my film for like 10 minutes and that's going to be good. After a while, the fixer stops being so discriminate about what silver it's removing. And it starts to take away your picture instead of the unused silver. We don't want that. Now, I go to step 4, which is simply to fill the tank with water and dump it a bunch of times. If you want to be a little more eco-friendly, you can fill it with water, agitate it, and then pour it out. You know, that just makes it a little more active. In fact, I'm going to choose to do that just because it's a little less loud for the video, for you to have a little less time with the water running. So what we're doing is we're just removing, obviously, a bit of that acidic fixer and stop bath, which is what's been left on the film. And I think I wrote down like 5 times. Yeah, I sure did. If you add in the agitating to that, I think you could certainly go like just 3 times, and that would be plenty. The other thing you can do is kind of stuff that hose in there and use this time to be cleaning up. So over here, these lids just peel right off. Take your stop bath. And with each of these, just stop and think. The reason I painted the colors that I did was because we are all artists. We respond to shapes and colors seems to me that if you're holding something colored blue and you're pouring it into something that's yellow, maybe you'll stop and go, oh, I think something's wrong here. I think the student that made me think of that was named Ben. I can't remember for sure, but twice during the same semester, the wrong chemical kind of got poured into the wrong tank. And it was then that I thought, might be time to make this more user-friendly. So a little more rinsing is never going to hurt in between the, for either of the water steps. So that's why I'm just sort of doing it now. Now we are ready for what is kind of like the soap, really. Permawash is just going to help make water soluble those processing chemicals that we've been using. And so, you know how soap is when you're washing your hands. If your hands are really dirty, kind of giving them a rinse with water, getting most of whatever mud or crud is on there off with water, helps the soap do its job. That's kind of what we're doing here. Permawash is a little expensive, so we're taking advantage of the water to rinse away things and make the permawash last a little longer. If you can see up on the chart, not in the video, but if you're here in person, the chart takes into account that maybe you kind of forgot and you just went chemical, 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 and then you're looking up and going, oh, whoops, I'm in the permawash and I didn't rinse it. That's okay. Just go double the time if you forgot the water rinse. So permawash would normally just be continuous